Afternoon, everyone. It's kind of nice coming up here after Bill. My microphone actually adjusts it just perfectly. Usually it's a little bit of a challenge. Thank all of you for being here today. This is quite an honor. If your family members, friends, these soon-to-be state troopers have done something incredible. They've obviously gone through a path in life that allowed them to get here, and then decided to go through what is unequivocally the most challenging academy in the state of Arizona. We have a mix in this class of lateral troopers and new troopers, but all of them have made a commitment. To the lateral troopers, the fact that you would endure going through another academy for a period of time, the physical fitness, the tests, the shooting, things like that, really speaks to your character. To our new recruits, to go through a stress academy for 31 weeks speaks to your character as well. I said this to you at the very beginning, I'll say it again, and I'll say this to the family members. I could really end this right now, look over at them and just say thank you, and that would be enough. Because the fact that they're here, we owe them a thanks. Marshal Gonzalez, sir, I've known you for 30-some years. I was as a gang detective when you were a commander of the state gang unit, and I was a detective with Phoenix PD. You were a cops cop then, and you retired as a cops cop. I thank you for everything you've done for our agency, for Arizona law enforcement, for the United States of America, and for me personally. I thank you, sir. Oftentimes I give a talk, and as our staff knows, I will go off the cuff, and I was thinking about doing that today. I think there's times for that. Today I went a little different because a couple of different things came to my mind when I thought about what I wanted to say to this class and say to the people in the room. I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about quite a bit lately. And I want to talk about things that we actually control versus those things that we don't. They're quite diametric. Maybe not in total sum, but certainly by predominant measure. Many would have us believe that attitude can change or control everything. I think this is an imprudent notion. I think it applies in every facet of life. Yet I do believe that attitude and mental outlook and vision are rooted deeply in our ability to succeed in life as professionals. For us, that's as Arizona State Troopers, and for many of you in this room as law enforcement officers and just as people in general. So I'd say let's examine our capacity of realistic control versus that which we do not. Just a short couple of years ago, we watched as the world and financial markets struggled to understand what was happening to our civilization. For our generation in this room, this was our global pandemic. If this virus wasn't contained or defeated, we realized that no possession we had, no money we possessed, was of consequence. People lost loved ones with horrific haste. During this time, I considered the fact that horrific diseases such as cancer, ALS, among others, had randomly attacked some of the best human beings I'd known in my life and in my career. These amazing people had no choice. They had no control over the disease. One might say they could choose the attitude about how they handled the disease, but their attitude could not control their eventual mortality resulting from the disease. I was harshly reminded this about a month ago as I watched the family of a 21-year-old named Zachary Hunzinger lose him to the viciousness of cancer. It was a long, hard-fought battle. His attitude couldn't have been more heroic. Zach was a son, a brother, a great high school football player, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and just a stud of a kid. He was loved and respected by adults and friends alike. After losing one lung, his knee, and withstanding multiple intensive surgeries, Zach was still running and was still working out. Because in his mind, he was still going to follow in his father's footsteps and become a police officer. He never got the chance to go to the academy to realize his goal because cancer robbed him of it. You see, cancer was beyond his control. Not how he responded to it, but the disease itself was beyond his control. Zach demonstrated what is and what is not in our sphere of control. You might ask, when discussing attitude and control, why use such tragedy for explanation? I do so because it's necessary to engender the point of how attitude correlates to resultant physical action and application that is in our grasp, as opposed to that which is not in our grasp. We can control our attitude, our outlook, our lens, and thus our final application of our actions derived from the aforementioned concepts. We go from mental compartmentalization to physical application and action, and that comes in to your life directly. Allow me a few illustrations as how this applies to you as troopers, but really moreover to all of us as human beings. On a simple level, if someone says something to me to offend me, I chose to be offended. Now think about that for a minute. Think about that in every way of life, on a traffic stop, on an interaction, on a freeway when somebody doesn't wave at you with all 5 fingers. How you respond to that, how I respond to that, is my choice. I have made a decision. I have actual control over how I respond. Think about how much we allow other people to give us an input and thus provide our response. How many times has that cost somebody their life? It is up to us how we respond to the input somebody else gives us. Now, I can go to extremes and talk about the fact that for some of these state troopers and some of the men and women in this room wearing a uniform, sometimes that's a life or death decision by the input somebody else gives you. But on day-to-day interaction, if somebody says something to offend you, remember this: you've chosen to be offended. How you respond to it is up to you. Allow me to share another illustration with you. One day I was on a on a collision on US 60. There was a young man involved in the collision. I don't remember what his role, whether he was a witness or whether he was involved in the collision, but I do recall he was very polite and respectful. He said to me, I've always wanted to be a state trooper. I said, well, man, why don't you test? I said, we're hiring. We need good people. He essentially, I remember his body language, and he went like this, and he pointed inward. And he said he was overweight and he couldn't pass the physical fitness test. It was interesting because it was the second such time that I had had somebody say they wanted to be a state trooper, but due to their weight and their physical conditioning, they could not. It precluded them from the process. Now, I will tell you, I respect the science of heredity and genetics, but as I have articulated, I'm also keenly aware of the difference in what we control and what we do not. I told the young man, never allow something in your physical control to stop you from realizing a goal or a dream. This is in direct contrast, if you reflect back to what I said before, about Zach Hunzinger, who genuinely didn't have control over his untimely mortality. Yet Zach believed he would beat cancer. And as I said, with one lung and an artificial knee and multiple horrific surgeries, ran and passed the POPAT test. What we control versus what we do not control. Quite directly, I told this young man on the freeway that day, I said his physical limitation was a choice, not an uncontainable mandate. When I got to DPS almost 8 years ago, the agency allowed for one of the slowest run times to become a trooper. I ordered our folks in hiring to make it the hardest run time. This happened near the same time I gave an order for the academy to go back to an accountability-based, stress-based academy. While many other places were going to a more laid-back college atmosphere, we felt, as an executive staff, this was not in the best interests of our future troopers or the community they serve. You ask why I ordered these measures. It's because we're looking for certain characteristics. We want to know the people who wear our 7-point star have proven they have the attitude and the mindset to work harder, train harder, and push themselves past the point of comfort. We want to know they won't quit. We also want to know that there's a mental and physical adjustment that needs to take place in the academy. There must be a transformation. And each of you who has a family member up here today need to understand with pragmatism that a transformation took place and a transformation will continue to take place. As we examined academies and how people were being trained, we realized we were not going to get there by allowing for naps and quiet times and recruits to bring little whoobies to the academy and have little timeout cards when things got too stressful. No, our academy was going to be one of intensity and discipline. What are the reasons for this? What are the reasons for the intensity and the discipline? What do we train for? We train for intellectual communication, instruction, empathy, team building, and integrity. It is grasping what honor really means, not just a word or a slogan. It is understanding that attitude and choice are what earn them the star with 7 points and what it represents. To our newest troopers, you've earned your first component of the honor you will bear with this badge. What you do with it now, how you treat it, how you cherish it, as Marshal Gonzalez said, how you honor it is your choice. That is within your control. I think I can say with confidence I know exactly how Zach Hunzinger would have chosen to honor a badge if he were ever able to go through an academy and earn one. With everything he had, each of you should do no less. Thank you.